thank you for coming to LA here.
Thank you for having me.
We know Tim. Fashion Week in February, Armani came in and you showed us what Armani was about, but I would like for you to tell us, especially Promise because she wasn't there, how you got started and everything.
We did that because we launched Fashion Week. Actually we launched September 11th. I think we opened in our store, in the Armani store, like a small kind of first, then La Rinascente, and then, but the US is really the market that they all look to. We were very specific. We launched Saks New York and Saks San Francisco. So I spent all my time flying back and forth. And then as like the economy started to get a little better, we opened Chicago and Beverly Hills.
Of course, you gotta have it in Beverly
Yeah,
Hills. Yeah,
and,
of course.
you know, women were angry because they're like, well, I can't find this.
They couldn't buy it online? It wasn't available?
We weren't online.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because it wasn't that common for people to
No,
buy
not at all.
products online.
Yeah, it's a totally different world now. But it was before like cell phones were like what they are now. Because the cell towers went down. So like the communication way of like, I think launching something now is so different because, you know, obviously social media is so much a part of everything in our lives, but this didn't exist. You know, it was like, it was email, you know, it was like, Mr. Armani still approves everything, every image. When we launched, if we had a launch party, like the creative people would take a picture of the table and email it to Milan and wait for a response that like that was approved.
Oh my gosh, that's intense.
I think I probably learned the most from Mr. Armani being around him so long. You know, he doesn't miss a trick. You know, it's like in the middle of whatever fashion show is going on, he'll know that there's like 3 people over there not doing what they should be doing, and you know, like literally stop the show for a moment.
So how did you meet him?
I met him a long time ago in Milan, like 20 years ago maybe, at a fashion show.
What were you doing then?
I modeled for a long time ago.
Really?
And I quickly decided I didn't like it, and that's when I like turned to makeup.
Why didn't you like it?
At the time, it was probably one of the only professions where men like were the accessory and women were the forefront. And I couldn't stand just like sitting around waiting for something to happen. So I like started hanging out with like the crew, like the lighting and the makeup, and it was a world I didn't know anything about, and it's much more fun. You know, it's like you're doing something all the time. Yeah, not just sitting there.
So then you just started playing with makeup?
Pretty much.
That's how you started with Armani.
Well, I mean, there was a long path in between. I traveled in a hot air balloon for a while. Then I came out here to do a movie, realized that was horrible.
It's on everything.
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah. Sometimes you've got to do something to figure out that you don't actually love it. I mean, other people can love it, that's great, but if, you know, you're not excited about it.
Now, what is your website called?
The Daily Muse.
And how did you start?
Yeah, I had sort of a similar path in that I tried a whole bunch of things before I figured out what I actually wanted to do. And so I worked briefly for the US State Department in Cyprus. I worked at the UN in Switzerland. I started it right after I got back to the US from living in Rwanda. I had spent all this time prepping for this job in Rwanda that I thought was going to be, you know, what I spent the rest of my life doing. And as much as I loved it, I just knew I didn't want to do that for the next 5 years. 3 days after I got back in the country, I met up with a woman I used to work with at McKinsey & Company. We felt like there was this incredible demographic of women who are smart and ambitious, and they want to run companies or, you know, establish themselves professionally. And there wasn't really any home or resource for that sort of content. So when a woman comes to the Daily Muse, she can read sort of inspirational stories from women like Arianna Huffington or the Secretary of Labor, Hilda Solis. So, you know, you take all these women who have built these incredible careers, and we sit down with them and we ask them, yeah, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? We have a whole section on really tactical advice, sort of, you know, if you're thinking about asking for a raise, what are the kind of 6 things you should do before, during, and after the process?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Sort of anything and everything related to career is fair game. And then we actually just launched a 3rd and final section, which is company profiles. We originally just wanted to put some job ads on the site. And everyone kept telling us, you know, all companies are describing themselves using the exact same language. Every company is like an innovative, you know, results-oriented environment. And I can see that this company makes $20 million worth of widgets. But that doesn't really tell me anything about whether I'm actually going to like it there.
I think you're so intent when you have to find that thing to do. And I think this is why so many people end up unhappy in their lives, is they just settle because they pick this, and because they pick that, and then then you get a mortgage, and then you have a family, and then you're just doing that, and that's not really what you want to do. It's such a waste.
Or they convince themselves that because this is something they wanted, that they have to like it.
Right.
You know, so many people who say, you know, I want to work for the UN, or I want to do this, and they do everything to get there. And once they get there, they're not happy, but they tell themselves, well, this is what I wanted, so
They feel
I'm
they
gonna
have to
like it.
stay,
I'm
yeah.
gonna enjoy. And it's, you know what, like, it doesn't matter if it's prestigious, if it's your dream, if it's not making you happy, there's so many other things you can do.
It's like getting married. You can always get another one.
Oh gosh. What are some of your traveling tips for girls who travel alone, and maybe with other girls?
With others, yeah. I mean, I always love, you look at the culture of where you're going, the dress styles. When I'm traveling in the Middle East, I usually wear, pants or a long skirt, and, I cover my arms, my shoulders.
Do they tell you to do that, or is it kind of something that you know?
I always pick up a guidebook, and sometimes I only just check it out at the library, just to kind of skim through, or, I look on the internet to see if there's any basic tips.
Or you want to have like that Sex and the City faux pas.
Oh, yeah.
I just think, it's respectful,
Of course.
and I always feel like if I look like someone who is being respectful of their country, then people will help me. Anytime in most countries I've been to that somebody started like hassling me on the street, other people will come forward and say, shame on you, this woman
Right.
is visiting our country, and I think as long as, you put your best foot forward, then other people will help. So whenever
people will hassle you on the street?
sometimes you can learn how to say no thank you in the local language, you can often stop 90% of people in their tracks because they don't expect you to be able to speak anything. And even if you can't, as long as you can convincingly fake, and you have to say it very dismissively, like,
Right.
no thank you, and that just, I found that shuts up a lot of people.
That's a really good tip.
And it's usually pretty easy, it's usually a single phrase. I think it's even more helpful than learning how to say hello. It's just like,
No, thank
no
you.
thank you.
And where's the restroom?
Where's the restroom? That's the main
Although
one.
that one can be mimed. I don't
Right.
want to demonstrate here, but you can convey that
It's
pretty
okay,
easily.
I can imagine.